Well, the 2022 Cheltenham Festival is here. I'm really excited, as you could probably tell. And funny enough, I found two gentlemen that I couldn't believe it. That's probably more excited than myself. Stephen Harris and Vincent Finegan. How are we doing, team? We well?
Yeah, very
All
excited.
good, yeah.
Not long now, TM. Not long now.
Yeah. Absolutely, Stephen. I was just going to come to you as you sit there in your lovely abode in sunny Surrey. Sun being the operative word, because last 3 or 4 years, we've had softer, heavy ground Cheltenham Festival, slowly run races, etc., etc. No excuses on the ground front. We're going to have lovely racing ground by the looks of it.
The forecast has improved, hasn't it? I was just looking now. I mean, you were saying good soft in places, but surely it's going to dry out with the next couple of days being sunny. I bet we're going to have a good ground Gold Cup by Friday. I'm sure it does dry out quickly there. It's perfect conditions, as you say, no excuses. The only thing I will say is, of course, we've all been watching racing for the last 6 months or so in heavy ground. So as a bookmaker, they might fancy getting a few results. You know, these have been slugging through heavy ground all winter, and now they're going to be gliding around good ground by Friday. So perhaps there'll be a few turnarounds, but hopefully not.
Well, someone who's always gliding around is Vincent Finegan. Great to bring you in here, Vincent. The Irish versus the home team is, you know, some people see it as a bit of a novelty. Some people see it as an interesting question on the wider point of where the strength really lies in racing. But you've been giving it out some in the big build up to this that we could be looking for another whitewash from Team UK, Team GB, if you like. You still confident all the strength lies with the top Irish yards this week?
Oh, I think so, Ed. Yeah, I think we've got a hugely strong hand coming over. Big teams from Willie Mullins, big team, biggest team ever from Gordon Elliott as well coming. The thing with it is, Tuesday, this is going to be the first day. This is the one that's going to test the English. You've got some good chances in the first 3 races of the day. And if the UK horses don't win one of them, I think it's going to be a very sad 3 days after this, because where are they going to get the winners from? These are your best chances, first 3 races. You'd expect the English will surely have something on the board after 3 races. If they don't, they're in real trouble.
Well, you mentioned the first 3 races. We'll kick off with the opener, of course. At 1:30 is the Supreme Novices. 9 runners due to go to post here. What looks an absolute crackerjack of a renewal, I think it's fair to say. We've got the likes of Dysart Dynamo, Constitution Hill, John Bond, Kilcrook, Mighty Potter, and then the likes of Bring On the Night, etc. Stephen, we'll come to you first here. In terms of, as I said, renewals of this assignment, this is right up there, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a brilliant race. I think I'm looking forward to this as much as anything all week. Maybe Shishkin and Nurgamin later in the week, but this is a brilliant race. I mean, I really do like Constitution Hill. The vibes out of Henderson's are that he's working much better than John Bond. So the market's going to be fascinating. I think John Bond might be very weak. That being said, they've always thought John Bond wants good ground and Constitution Hill wants really testing ground. So that's the flip side to that. I mean,
is that the worry?
It's got to be a concern for Constitution Hill. He's definitely a 3-mile chaser in the making. He's going to be a cracking top-class Grade 1 Gold Cup type horse down the line. This is going to be a test of speed if it's genuinely good to soft ground. If we do have all sunny day, all day Tuesday, it's going to dry out. But first time out, it should be no excuses. I mean, traditionally, all Nicky Hendersons want good ground, don't they? But he was so impressive in the Tolworth at Sandown. I know horses can win by wide margins at Sandown, and sometimes it's a bit flattering because they're all unconscious 3 out before they hit the hill, aren't they? Yeah. But I mean, the form of that race looks rock solid. The 4th and the 5th have come out and won since, and the manner in which he did it, he just screamed Grade 1. I mean, always at the back of my mind, we've had these conversations before, that I always think the Irish form is at least a stone strong. We've said it a million times before. So that is a slight niggle in the back of your mind. And when you look back at his form, it's small fields. It's both at Sandown on pretty testing ground. So this is a different test. You know, it's going to be a much faster run race. I was going to ask Vincent, actually, how he sees it being run, because obviously Mullins has got Dysart Dynamo and Kilcrook, who both made all the running to win their most recent starts. I mean, Dysart Dynamo in particular looks a definite front runner. He jumps superbly, goes. So it'll be very interesting to see who swallows and who lets the other one go on, because they're not going to ruin each other, are they? They're going to have a long discussion about what's going to lead and what's going to sit second or third. So it's a fascinating race tactically. I mean, I think the faster they go is better for Constitution Hill. He's a thorough stayer. He'll be powering up the hill. I think he's got to a fair price. He's 5-2 now. Maybe he'd be bigger on the exchanges, and I think that is a fair bet, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll bring you in there, Vincent. I mean, the most likely pace angle probably Dynamo with that horse who's 2 from 2. Looked brilliant. I suppose there is that element of he's been pretty free going. He was pretty fractious going to post last about 70,000 frenzied punters there, you know, after a couple of diet lemonades like myself. It's going to be a proper cauldron of an atmosphere. And I suppose with Dice at Dynamo, and you perhaps could bring John Bon into the same conversation here, it's going to be as much kind of keeping a lid on their temperament as it is perhaps their kind of residual class as much.
Yeah, another element to this is we just don't know how good any of these really are. Like Dice Art Dynamo is winning 19 lengths each start over hurdles. One of those races, one in December in Cork, the horses that finished second, third, and fourth have run a load of times since, and none of them have won. So you just question that a little bit. Now, look, when you win 19 lengths, it doesn't really matter what's behind you. But at the same time, you'd like to have seen Dice Art Dynamo run against some real top quality horses in Ireland and hasn't. Kilcroot, on the other hand, has, but got beaten a couple of times, and it took 3 goes to get it right. This is a difficult race because the 2 English horses certainly look top drawer on everything we've seen. Maybe John Bon, for me, hasn't been as impressive as Constitution Hill has, but that's neither here nor there. He's obviously a very good horse too. The question, as Stephen mentions, is, are these English horses just as good as the Irish, or are the Irish still a stone ahead? And that's what we don't know. And we won't know that till about 1:34 on Tuesday. And that's the way it works, isn't it? This is a cracking race. It is what a race to start it off with. I'm a little bit disappointed Sir Gerhardt's not here, because I really think he would have put it up to everything if he'd have run. Obviously, they've decided to go the longer trip. We'll talk about that later in the week. So Willie Mullins, he doesn't normally make too many mistakes, and he has decided here that Dice Art Dynamo is the main one, presumably. We know Kilcroot has a chance, and to bring on the night, we don't know what that could do. It could obviously, it's a Joe Donnelly owned one with a tongue strap on for the first time. Was an easy winner in Nace as well. So looking at it, he's thinking he's going to win this race and he's going to win the Ballymore. That's presumably why he's split his aces here. So Dice Art Dynamo would want to be the real deal, and it probably is. So that being the case, John Bon and Constitution Hill are going to have to be fair horses to beat him if he's that good.
But if I could push you for even a tentative selection in the Supreme, who would it be?
If I have to, push comes to shove, I'd have to go with Willie Mullins and Dice Art Dynamo, because I thought Sir Gerhardt will win the race. If he's decided that he can win the Ballymore with Sir Gerhardt, I think he thinks he can win the Supreme with Dice Art Dynamo. The one thing here is I really don't think you have a bet here, personally, because, as I said, this race tends to throw up some wobbly results down the years. We've had loads of outsiders have won this in the past. As I said on a previous show here on our Cheltenham special we did, there's only been 4 favourites and 2 joint favourites in the last 30 years. And there's a reason for that, because we don't know how good these horses are. You're only guessing here. Whereas later in the week, or in some of the other races on Tuesday, we're not necessarily guessing. We've seen good horses have beaten other good horses, and we know what level they're at. Here we're only guessing to a large extent. So I'll go with Dice Art Dynamo, but I would not be surprised to see John Bon win. I wouldn't be surprised to see Constitution Hill win. And I suppose you could give squeaks. You could give squeaks to, you could make cases for Mighty Potter and Kilcroot as well, but personally not for me.
Yeah, interesting. Well, Mighty Potter, funny enough, would be my each way selection here. I think he's a little bit forgotten as a Grade 1 winner, and I do think he will stay up the hill, perhaps when others have cried enough. Stephen, coming to you, it will be Constitution Hill for yourself. Yeah,
I think 5-2. It's got to a fair price. He's sort of been thinking it's going to be shorter, but I think 5-2 is a very fair price. He's a straightforward ride. He's going to keep galloping. It'll take De Boinville will sit very close to Dice at Dynamo, whatever happens, right in his shoulder. I just think they want it to be a stamina test. He's not going to be cruising out the back trying to do him to speed. He's going to be up on the hammer and keep galloping. So it's a brilliant race. Just to touch on John Bon, his form hasn't worked out at all, actually. Richmond Lake was well beaten when falling the other day, and the horse at Ascot, Colonel Mustard, I think, has let the form down since. So John Bon has got a bit to prove in it. I think he might be the weak link in the chain, John Bon, and certainly going on what I was told about how they're working at home, that they much prefer Constitution Hill now at the moment. So we shall see.
We shall see, in what will be an absolute belting renewal of the Supreme Novices. Really looking forward to that. Right, moving on to the Arkle at 2:10 on your cards. 11 due to go to post for this top clash over 2 miles on the old course for novice chasers. We'll stick with you, Stephen. Edwardstone. Alan King's horse here has done very little wrong over fences so far. Is he one you are siding with?
I think he's just about the form truth. I think this is one of the hardest races on the day, Ed, actually. And I think it's complicated by the fact that we've both been keen on Riviere de Tel, haven't we, for the last few months, really. And it's certainly a very unlucky loser last time out. But there is a lot of pace on here, and that might just set it up for Edwardstone on decent ground. I think will suit him. The front runners are Riviere de Tel, Saint Sam, possibly, Gabbianaco, Brave Siaska. I mean, that's 4 of them. So they are going to go a proper gallop here.
Tactics will be interesting.
You know, I think Edwardstone is ridden patiently. Tom Cannon knows him really well. He's a sound jumper. I mean, again, it's a bit like Constitution. At the back of my mind, I'm half thinking I'm wrong as I'm saying it, because it's small field English form against battled, hardened Irish horses who've been running in proper races, hammer and tongs against each other, whereas Edwardstone's been pootling round Warwick, beating third time lucky in a sort of small field crawl, you know, or not a crawl, because Full Pleasure's been in the races, but it's just at the back of my mind. But I do think Edwardstone has got the best makeup out of all of them, and he's bound to give his
right he's the right favourite in your mind.
Yeah, definitely the right favourite. Again, 5-2, unlike Constitutional, I don't think it's a wonderful price. I think this is a almost 4-1 the field race, and I suspect it'll be bigger than 5-2 on the day later on.
Yeah, I could sense from there are a lot of question marks about a lot of these, I suppose. I mean, just very quickly on Edwardstone, Vincent, in the back of my mind, in the front of my mind, I should say, his 4 figures at Prestbury Park read 5, 5 and 6. If you took that away, I think, to me, I think he looks an absolutely knocking bet in the sense that he jumps, he travels, he quickens with official ratings. He's the one they've all got to fire at. But there is just that feeling, as Stephen says, perhaps there's something here from the Irish Challenge just to surpass him.
Yeah, the other thing is he's 8 years of age as well, which is a worry. Trends would say he won't win because of that, but look, we can't go on that alone. I think he could end up with quite a short price here for the simple reason that if you look at the Irish horses, I can't see any single Irish horse that all the Irish punters are going to get behind here. I think they're going to be split in 3 and 4 different ways, whereas you'd imagine all of the English punters and some Irish punters will go with Edwardstone. So I could see him ending up short. I can't see a big gamble on any of the Irish ones here particularly. The only one I'd say maybe would be the Riviere de Tel. Having said that, Riviere de Tel is £3 worse off with Blue Lord, and Blue Lord beat Riviere de Tel the last day. So why would you necessarily get stuck in there? You probably wouldn't. I think this is a trappy race. I'd agree with Stephen, one of the most difficult races of the week. The other thing to take note of here, which I'm not quite sure why this has happened, is Gavin Cromwell has gone and supplemented Gabbianaco here. Gabbianaco was entered for the other 2 novice chases over further, and all his form is over further. So why is Gabbianaco going here? It's a big surprise, especially you wouldn't mind if this was owned by Joe Donnelly or Rich Ritchie. It's the Mick and Molly syndicate had to stump up £8,000 sterling. Like, that's a fair ask for anyone. It's already expensive enough owning a horse without having to throw in another £8,000. There must be a reason for this. They must have seen something at home. It's got a tongue strap on for the first time and a rider for the first time as well. I think Keith Donoghue, very strong rider, very accomplished rider with Gordon Elliott. And he's ridden a lot of tricky horses, Keith Donoghue, and he rides them well. So this could be interesting. Maybe there's something here that they think. I wouldn't be like to be laying 25-1 Gabbianaco if I was a bookmaker. I just think there's more to this than meets the eye. This could be a bit of a La Bec or something from a couple of years back. That you'll find out this will win a 20-1 and the whole world will say, oh, we were all on that. We knew. So possibly. I think it's a tricky race. I could see Edwardstone certainly winning. I could also see any one of a number of Irish winning this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a pretty wide open mule. Very interested with that Gabbianaco. That you would have thought the Turners, given that it's probably going to be a 4 or 5 runner race, would have been the natural target for him. But we're a bit pushed for time here, so I'm going to have to kind of get you towards selections. Stephen, you lead off here. Your winner of the Arkle, please.
I've gone for Edwardstone. I think I'll only be backing him personally if he drifts out to sort of 7-2, 4-1ish, which probably is unlikely. I did think quickly, Ed, that the best rag was Curse Sublime, who I wanted to run in the Grand Annual. Only had 3 runs over fences. Won very impressively last time out. Henry de Bromhead was quiet at the time. I'm going to say this a lot. Henry de Bromhead was very quiet, and Curse Sublime was really impressive at the end of January at Gowran. He's run in a champion hurdle before, so he's got a bit of class. I think he's overpriced only because he's a hold-up horse in a race with loads of pace. And from an each-way point of view, you don't want to back front runners each way. You want to back horses who are ridden patiently. So if Curse Sublime gets to 20, I'll have him winning as well.
Yeah, interesting. Rachael Blackmore on board. Vincent, your selection in the Arkle?
I'll stick with Riviere de Tel. I've fancied this
Tel.
for quite a while. It's a good jumper. Has a chance, without a doubt.
Brilliant. That makes for two of us on with Riviere de Tel as well. All right, moving on to the 250, the Ultima Handicap Chase. 3 miles, 1 furlong. Wow, this is tricky. 24 runners, all due to go to post, the full field. Stephen, come to you first. Have you managed to unravel this equine Rubik's Cube for us?
This is a really hard race. Just as a point of interest, Does He Know, trained by Kim Bailey, who's been quite vocal in wanting a 5-day festival energy. Well, Kim's only got 1 runner on Tuesday at Cheltenham. Of the 95 have been declared. So that's
the lobster on the 5th day is excellent, I've been told.
Well, that's it. Yeah. I mean, it does seem a very strange argument. I mean, we can do another show on the Jockey Club.
I'm sure we will.
Debt situation that they need to get the money into service the pension black hole. I was reading about that. That was 15 minutes of my life I'll never get back. But anyway, we move on to the Ultima. It's at least 10-1 the field. I respect the claims of Does He Know, trained by Kim Bailey. Nice and progressive, sound jumper. Kim Bailey has gone a bit quiet again, though. 0 from 15 in the last 14 days. That's a slight concern, but they've been in competitive races. I've gone for Death Duty here. He's old enough to smoke. That's the only negative, but he bounced back to his best form over 3 mile 4 the other day. I think he's still reasonably treated. He'll be staying on up the hill. I think he's probably a good each way bet because he stays further.
Yeah.
When the others are fading out of things, he'll be running on. It's a very, very competitive race.
Yeah, it sure is. Vincent, do you have a view on this one?
I do have a little bit of a view. I think Ben Dundee has a squeak here. Danny Mullins rides it for Andrew Lynch. This is not a bad horse. It's got some decent enough form in Cheltenham. I wouldn't go as far as to say this will win, but I think it'll run well at a big price. It had a very good run at Christmas in Leopardstown in the Paddy Power Chase, beaten half a length by Schoolboy Errors. Another interesting element to this is the fact that back in home in Ireland, the horse is rated 146. It gets to run off 147 in Cheltenham, which is very favourable terms for an Irish handicapper coming over. Only £1 higher than at home. Has to have a chance on its last run in Leopardstown and has some reasonable place form in Cheltenham before. I wouldn't be surprised to see this run very well at a big price.
Absolutely. Ben Dundee at a decent each way price there. I think you probably know where I'm going. Corrick Rambler's been my fancy for this. It seems for about 7 years coming into this assignment around the 12-1 mark. But I think with a clear round, he'll be right in the mix. And as Stephen always says, keep an eye on your each way terms and everything and check out your prices. But yeah, Corrick Rambler for myself. I think he's got major claims in that assignment for the Lucinda Russell team. Moving on to the 330, of course, is the big one. The champion hurdle. Honeysuckle needs very little introduction. She's the absolute win machine, isn't she? 14 out of 14, unblemished. And Vincent, it's very hard to see anything else other than that, in my view, other the winning thread continuing.
Yeah, I'm not so certain. I know everyone would say, oh, this is mad. She's a certainty and everything else. And look, she probably will win. And we all hope she'll win. But I definitely think Appreciated could be a fly in the ointment here. This is a very good horse. Appreciated. Like you're looking at a horse that started favourite, finished second in a champion bumper, then absolutely bolted in last year on this day in the Supreme Novice Hurdle, won the race by 27 lengths, unchallenged. This is a fair level of form, and they were going to go chasing with the horse, decided against that with a slight niggle early in the season. So they've gone for here, 1 run. We know Willie Mullins can do that. He's done it 5 times before with Quivega. He did it with Penn Hill as well, and he's another one he did it with. That is what's the horse he had? Another one over a year off it was anyway, when it won one of the handicaps. So he's more than capable of doing this, and I'd be surprised if Appreciated is not a major danger to Honeysuckle. The other Irish horse, the rapid improver Tihupu, a little bit worried. I'd be a little bit worried about the ground because it's five of its wins it's had, 4 of them had heavy in the going description. You would query that. Having said that, the horse was very impressive in Goran, beat Durasso 11 lengths. That Durasso's not a bad horse. I think if Durasso was in here, not that it would have any chance of winning, but I don't think it'd be beaten too far in this sort of race. It'd be a horse you'd expect to see finish 7th or 8th, maybe beaten 10 or 12 lengths. So Tihupu has to have a squeak here as well, but the ground will be a worry for me.
Yeah, interesting. Vincent mentions Tihupu. Well, earlier on, we caught up with his jockey Robbie Power for his views on his ride.
All right, you mentioned Tihupu as well in the champion hurdles. Obviously, Honeysuckle, all the hypes about Honeysuckle, you mentioned it already. But I mean, do you see any potential weaknesses in her, or is she just almost like the perfect horse?
there's no weaknesses in her at the moment, or if there is, she hasn't showed them, because she's 14 from 14, going for an incredible 15 for 15. She's been very well handled and very well placed by Henry de Bromhead. But I do think this is her stiffest task to date. I think in Appreciated and Tia Poo, she faces two serious rivals. Troy Epitant, former champion hurdle winner as well. I know she was well beaten by her last year, but I think she comes into the race this year in much better form. And if outside of them four, I'd be shocked if anything else wins the champion hurdle. But I think this is a tough test for Honeysuckle.
And obviously, yeah, you're on the ground now in Cheltenham, so you've seen the conditions are quite favourable for tomorrow. Does that put a bit of a question mark for you on Tihupu? Can you kind of go into that?
Well, it does, in the sense that we've never run him on this ground, so we don't know. For all we know, he could come out and be 10 times better on this ground, and hopefully he will be. But and he'll need to be to beat Honeysuckle. But he handles soft ground so well. If the ground was soft, I would have been jumping up and down, but it's not. I walked the track this morning. In my eyes, it's good to yielding, good in places. I think there's no soft in it at all. Maybe a little bit of good to soft down the back straight, but by champion hurdle time tomorrow with the dry forecast, it'll be mainly good ground tomorrow.
Well, interesting to hear from Robbie there regarding Tihupu. But back to Honeysuckle, Stephen. She's the class act, as we say. She's going to be one of the Irish bankers of the week. There is this little bit of uncertainty, especially in the old Cheltenham preview night circuit. For some reason, people are starting to say, oh, she's not beating anything, blah, 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 which could be true in itself. Nonetheless, it's there's a lot of guesswork with Appreciate It has to be said. And outside of that, I mean, she's going to have to run a long way below form in order to not win this. Do you see an obvious reason why she will not perform on the day?
Well, I think it's a fascinating market race aside of it. Let's hope she does win, first of all. 14 out of 14. Do you remember last year's market? She ended up 11 to 10. She looked like being sort of 5 to 2 a few days before it. There was a wholesale public. I suspect that 6 to 4 on is a very big price. I've half got it in the back of my mind that Appreciate It has been priced up defensively because people are worried it's a bad each way race, which it probably is from a bookmaking point of view. I suspect Appreciate It will be nearer 6, 7, 8 to 1 by the time the exchange layers are fit. 364 days off is a long time. I know we were talking off air, weren't we, about the injury problem. That's a long time to be off the track. Whether or not, they had him ready at Christmas and they decided to wait is one thing. But I think that is a big concern. I don't think Tihupu's form is that much. It's all against Quilixius, basically, in heavy ground in Ireland, in small fields. And I suspect they all stopped last time when he came home alone. So I don't really fancy that. The English horses, Epitante's got about 15 lengths to find with Honeysuckle. I mean, she'll like, if it's good ground, by the middle of the afternoon, which it could be with sunny forecast, all the rest of it. She'll like a test of speed. She's a glider rather than a grinder, but she's not really good enough. And then you're down to Adagio, who bottled it against Goshen last time. Zana here, they've all got 15 lengths to find. So I suspect Honeysuckle will be near a 2 on or 9 or 4 on, especially if there's no confidence behind Appreciate It on the day. The last few minutes of betting are going to be fascinating, but she's won 14 races. I don't think she'll be 6 to 4 on, personally. I think she'll be shorter. The one thing to say is to try and be a real clever dick before. I think if you're backing Honeysuckle, which a lot of people will be in multiples and all the rest of it with Boyles, who are offering up really fair prices on her, I think you want to have the odds bet on the exchanges, because she definitely idled and hung left when she won last time. I think that's the reason a lot of people are keen to get her, is that she wasn't that impressive the other day. She was workmanlike, and when she was either dossing in front or lugging left, and she changed her legs on the run-in. And after the race, quite a few people who are good judges on Twitter were saying, has she gone lame on the run-in? It's just something to bear in mind. It's a long old hill at Cheltenham. She'll quick and clear, but have 1.03 and 1.01 in to let them bet it on, because if she idles, we've seen strange things happen before at Cheltenham, haven't we, Ed?
Yeah, we have. But yeah, very disappointing 7-length winner of a Grade 1 last time out.
Well, that's it. Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, I think she'll win. I think 6 to 4 on's a fair price. I think she'll end up being shorter, but Appreciate It is a classic exchange horse who, personally, I suspect will be a much bigger price come the off.
Yeah, indeed. So if I could push you for a bet or an angle in here, Stephen, what would it be?
Honeysuckle, but have the odds bet on in running.
Case of some carnage. Okay,
Yeah.
Vincent, yourself?
Yeah, I'll go with Appreciate It. The other thing to note here is there's horses in here like Adagio, Saint Roy, and Zana here, all putting different equipment on them for the first time. I always find that's a bit of desperation myself. I'll be surprised if the tongue strap first time on Adagio or St. Roy makes any difference, and the same with the cheek pieces on Zana here. Not at this level. That's okay in handicaps.
Well, you've rained on my parade. I actually think Adagio might be the one to follow. Honeysuckle home there. I think he's a strong traveller. You'll probably find he won't find as much as you think. That's probably why they put the tongue tie on. Anyway, I think he's probably the each way play. And as you say, what looks generally a race for Honeysuckle to lose. Right, the 4:10 is the Mayor's Hurdle. Tell Me Something Girl, another horse here, represented by the combination of Henry de Bromhead and Rachael Blackmore, heads the market. Vincent, you kick off. Are you with her or are you against her?
I'd be against her on her recent form. Doesn't look good enough. Having said that, obviously she won the race last year, so that's certainly good enough. I was a little bit worried about the Bromhead form. Probably not so much now. He's had a few winners in the last few weeks. Enough to say the horses are certainly in reasonable enough form, and that's all they need to be. The question is here, Tell Me Something Girl, what level has he got her at? She hadn't run since mid-November when she ran at the end of the year in Leopardstown at the Christmas meeting. She's beaten that time by Royal Kahala and Heaven Help Us.
Giving them weight, though.
That's a question mark. Yes, giving them weight, but it is a question. Yeah. And you've got Heaven Help Us in here. That's not a bad horse to say. It was a long margin winner last year at the festival, won 9 lengths at the festival last year. Heaven Help Us has to have a squeak here, has to be a contender. I would say at the relative prices, because you're looking at decent double figure odds. Heaven Help Us, I'd be saying Heaven Help Us each way was a better bet than Tell Me Something Girl at probably 3-1. Yeah. It's a tricky race. This, again, it's mares, and you tend not to generally, with the exception of the super mares like Honeysuckle, you tend not to be able to guarantee they'll produce the same form day after day. And I would question a little bit that element of it. So it'd be minimum stakes for me in each way bet. It's a tricky race.
Okay, absolutely. And Stephen, to come to you.
Yeah, small stakes for me. This is not my area of expertise. Irish trained mares, basically, but it looks at least 4 or 5-1 the field. I don't think this one. I've seen 11-4. Tell Me Something Girl. I don't think it should be anything like this. This is a really tight race. My selection for betting expert was Queen's Brook, who I think my one confident opinion about this race is that I think Queen's Brook will reverse that form with Burning Victory last time out. Burning Victory got the absolute run of the race from the front there, and Queen's Brook was poorly positioned in a tactical race. And there's other front runners here. Vincent just mentioned one of them, Heaven Help Us. So they could row on the lead. And if you can find a match bet, Queen's Brook against Burning Victory, you might, there's going to be millions of specials and all the rest of it. That's the way I'd go. I think Queen's Brook's probably an okay each way bet here. She's got more improvements come, around about 5-1. She should give her running and go close, but tiny stakes.
Yeah, absolutely. Despite the fact that Henry de Bromhead hasn't had a winner in March, I'm sticking with Tell Me Something Girl here. I just think she's the class act. Fingers crossed she will get it done. Moving swiftly on to the 450, the Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle. Is this one of those times, Vincent, where you just kind of get the pin out, throw it, and hope it lands somewhere?
I think it needs to be an Irish pin here, personally, because I think we've got some very strong horses at the top of the market. The favourite could be absolutely anything here.
Gaelic Warrior.
You've got, without a doubt. Look, we know this coming from France. It's supposed to be a decent horse in France, rated 129. Normally, they'd throw those up a good few pounds higher when they come across from France. This has been left on the same mark, and it's with Willie Mullins. And Willie Mullins has had this horse for a while. So can Willie Mullins improve the horse from what it did in France? Absolutely, yes. Of course he can. According to Danny Mullins, who was on our Cheltenham special, Danny was saying this horse works very well. Working very well in Willie Mullins means it's rated a lot higher than a 129. Like, to work well in Willie Mullins, you'd want to be a 150, I'd imagine. So this horse could have 20 pounds or more in hand. That being the case, it's going to be very hard to beat, but it might get beat because we've got the Tide Turns of Gordon Elliott's. This looks a very interesting horse. Ran really well in the Tihupu race in Gordon Park, loomed up on the outside at the second last, was only having a sighter, you'd imagine, because it needed a third run to qualify for this race and had already got a handicap mark. They're sticking a tongue strap on that as well. It's why, I don't know, because it doesn't look like it needs it necessarily, but I'd say that's a real contender here with the Elliott camp. We'll be looking for winners on the boards in all these sort of races. And then there's another one that I've good word for this. We'll wait and see what happens. A horse called Brazil, Porrick Roaches. They really fancy this too. Very interesting. It's still a colt. Very few of them. You've got to go back a long time to find a colt. Alderbrook, I think, was one of the last I can remember in a champion hurdle that went on to be a stallion afterwards. Very unusual that it's a JP McManus horse, came out of Aidan O'Brien's and they've kept it as an entire. It's by Galileo. We saw that Serpentine, which was a Derby winner, already got the snip before going to stud. He's going to go for Melbourne Cups in Australia at this stage. This is interesting, this Brazil. I wouldn't be surprised to see that be a bit of a gamble on the day, to be honest.
Yeah, fascinating. Brazil for you. And Stephen, quickly, any strong angle in here?
24 runs. I've tipped Gaelic Warrior, but he's crashed in price. He's around 5-2 now. So he's a market horse again. Be interesting to see where he goes. I suspect Ireland will win the race, but Dan Skelton's too friendly. First time in a handicap. They're very keen on him. He's had a wind operation since he last ran. If you look at his form in the Summit at Doncaster last time, Night Salute won the race. That's won since. Porticello was second. That's won since. Impulsive One was third. That's won since. The fifth home who beat the Ambulance, Sacre Pierre, has won since. So Too Friendly came fourth there, got a negative ride. Now into handicaps of 125. I think he's the best of the English challengers. He's 20-1. Find a bookmaker offering 6 places or more. It's not a punter-friendly race, this, Ed. 24 runners. You need more than 4 places. You need probably 6. You might need 10 if you're an English trainer. Yeah, but I think Too Friendly is the most interesting English runner in the race.
Okay, fascinating. Yeah, split opinions there on that contest. Right, the final race to conclude the action on day one of the Cheltenham Festival, of course, is the National Hunt Challenge Cup Amateur Jockeys Chase. Just a very small field of 7 declared for this here. Nonetheless, do have some quality on display. Irish holding a very strong hand, as you would expect, Vincent. Statler, Runwild Fred, the kind of the protagonist, shall we say. You could throw Vanillier in there as well. How are you seeing this one?
Well, for a long time, I've been thinking Run Wild Fred. I got a little bit of a wobble when I heard Gordon Elliott said last week that Rob James was going to ride the horse, which I just thought, it's a bit of a pity because he can't claim here. Not to say he's not a good rider. He claims £7. Yeah. So I thought that was why not use one of the best amateurs? These top amateur races in Cheltenham, you need a top amateur. And I thought Jamie Codd would have been perfect, but he doesn't generally ride for Gigginstown. Obviously, they've had a little heart-to-heart within the Elliott camp, and all of a sudden it switched, and Jamie Codd rides this horse. Yeah. This horse is going to be very, very hard to beat. He's been sort of 7-2, 3-1 chance for the last month or two. I think he'll start a short price here. You're looking at maybe 2-1, 9-4 joint favourites himself and Statler. I think he goes off favourite. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't. Statler's a decent horse. So Willie Mullins he's only had the 2 runs over fences. That lack of experience is definitely going to be playing against him here. I'd see Run Wild Fred win, and I do think Pat's Fancy, the way it jumps with Barry O'Neill riding it, that has a squeak. I'm not sure it's up to this level. It was getting a lot of weight off Brave Man's Game the last day. I think Run Wild Fred would be a better horse. Has got a good bit ahead on ratings, on official figures. It'd be a good bit ahead of Pat's Fancy. Just the way Pat's Fancy jumps, I could see that being involved here. If there was 8 runners, that would be a play. With 7 runners, probably not. I'd stick with Run Wild Fred. I'd be very disappointed if this gets beat.
Okay, then, yeah, strong words to Run Wild Fred for Vincent there. Stephen, yourself?
Yeah, not a massive betting race. It's a bit of a strange way to end the day, isn't it, with only 7 runners? Not ideal, I'd have thought. Run Wild Fred, I think the positives are good ground, which it could be by then. He's run twice on it and glided round, won really well. I think it was at Navan back in November. It was good ground there when he landed a gamble. So the ground, if it dries out, will suit him. He's only ever run over a marathon trip once, finished second in the Irish Grand National. The one negative, Vince touched upon it, he has shortened up. I think he's going to be about 2-1, 9-4. So he's a bit less. And there are 3 or 4 realistic contenders. And the one thing would be, he's run 18 times under rules in total. He's never left Ireland, unless I'm missing something. I can't see any English racecourses in his profile. So that would have to be a slight concern about a 2-1 chance in front of 70,000 people, at the end of a dry, sunny day, maybe. But, every other box is ticked.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there'll be a lot of confidence behind that individual. That pretty much wraps up business going through all the races on the opening day. Just to conclude then, Stephen, come to you first. If you could just remind Jump to It viewers of your best 3 bets on the Tuesday of the Cheltenham Festival.
Well, I think Constitution Hill at 5-2 or bigger is my betting expert nap. I like Death Duty. I think he's a good each way bet with extra places. He'll be running on into the frame at worst with a clean round of jumping. And let's just hope Honeysuckle makes it 15 out of 15. I think that's going to be the dawn run moment of the day for Ireland. And I really hope she does win.
Oh, I mean, the reception will be absolutely terrific, won't it? The proverbial roof will come off the stand at Cheltenham with the scenes of Rachael Blackmore coming back into the winners' enclosure if that does happen. Vincent, your best three?
Well, I'd love to see that. Now, the Honeysuckle thing would be beautiful to see. For my best three bets, I'm going with Riviere de Tel in the Arkle. I think it definitely gives you a run for your money, no question about that. Then Ben Dundee is in each way in the Ultima. Big price, should run well. Be disappointed if it wasn't the first 5 or 6, as Stephen does mention a lot of the time. Look for extra places if you can get it on those sort of horses. And then my nap of the day is Run Well Fred. I'd be very disappointed if he gets beat.
Yeah, excellent stuff there. Some great views for the team. Very quickly, I'm just going to throw in Telmesomethinggirl, my selection in the mares to bounce back to winning ways. The Henry de Bromhead team. And I've gone for a couple of prices in the handicaps. Corrick Rambler, still double figure pricing. Also, I think run well. And Champion Green in the Boodles. I've gone into that absolute minefield there. But a horse with a lot of, should we say, fast ground pedigree when you look at him. And the ground is drying up beautifully here in the Gloucestershire Riviera. I just wonder if we saw what he did last time out in Nace on quick ground. He could be a little bit underestimated. Off a mark of 125 for the Joseph O'Brien team. Anyway, that brings business to a close. Gents, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. Thanks to Robbie Power as well. We'll be doing it all again on the next show. And of course, don't forget to check out all Stephen's tips on bettingexpert.com and all Vincent's news on irishracing.com as well. And we're hearing from Danny Mullins throughout the entire week. Bye for now.